Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another live session. Looks like the mic is working. Looks like you can see me. So, as people are hopping into this live session, always those warm and fuzzies that you can see and hear me are always welcome and appreciated. So, thank you so much for being back for another live session as we're already rolling through the end of January. Um, I was looking at the stats, kind of crazy number. I'm getting pretty close to 200 lives. I think that will happen sometime in March, which is it's just crazy to think that I've done this almost 200 times, but always fun to be here. And thanks, Patrick, for letting me know that you can see and hear me okay. So, as always, let's just go backwards before we go forwards, and we're always kind of warming into these sessions, slowly warming in. So, yesterday's video, it really depends. It depends on the strategic level of your role. But yesterday's video, I took a moment to just talk about the 30, 60, 90. I think, obviously everybody knows I'm going to come in with a little bit of my unique lens and perspective. If you ever get asked the 30, 60, 90 question, what are you going to do in your first 30, 60, 90 days on the job? This is usually driven towards leadership roles, but it can come for any role. I obviously want you to create that plan before the job interview, but you can't be rigid. And that's what I kind of try to focus in on in yesterday's video is if we're rigid in our 30, 60, 90, we come in with an assumed plan, but just asking a few clarifying questions beforehand could trigger us more down a process path or a strategy path or a revenue growth path. We always have to talk about what our interviewers care about. And yes, the job interview is a two-way street, but if we're not constantly focusing in on our interviewer and building connectivity and talking about what they want, and the simplest analogy is if you love football and your interviewer doesn't love football, they love basketball, but you just constantly talk about football, you're not going to align. You should be talking about basketball because that's what they care about. Yes, we have to ask the questions, find out about the role, the comp, all the things that are important with the job, but interviewer connectivity is one of the biggest missing pieces of the puzzle. And so I really wanted yesterday's video to focus it on that. And of course, if you're not building a 30, 60, 90-day plan, it's just a great way to get into that mindset to think about what you might do in that role when you joined. It will trigger some good ideas for the job interview in general. So let's just take a minute. I'm going to talk about my services. We're going to jump right in. During the slow times, we will talk about some really good strategies for managing those pre-interview nerves, stress, anxiety, etc. So just today, if you use the coupon code NERVES to get 25% off of our AI packages in our interview course, the AI tool, we're starting to get some really good momentum. I'll constantly share little tidbits about what's going on with the app. And one of the things we're doing now is we're going to build an academy into our app. So we're going to kind of build a little bit more of that course functionality to get people working through the app and give a little bit more assistance there. And we have all sorts of new setup tools, body language tools coming into the app. And in the next 3 to 6 months, I think we'll be at the perfect state, really, where I want us to be. We're approaching a year of being live on the AI tool. So if you haven't checked it out, you can do the 7-day free trial and obviously 25% off today if you use that coupon code. Our interview mastery course back in October, I spent 4 weekends building AI modules into the course because it was just needed. It needed that refresh and update. Really, really happy about that. And the feedback I have gotten has all been fantastic on those modules. Still doing one-on-one interview coaching, one-on-one negotiation coaching, and one-on-one career strategy. That's resume, LinkedIn, networking strategies. I go live 9 a.m. Pacific time every Tuesday and new original long-form content every Monday with more shorts coming the other days of the week. Okay, let's have some fun today. We will always, as always, go as long as we need to go. Any questions, comments, feedback, where you're visiting from. You just want to say hi to me. I appreciate everybody being here, and I'll continue to show up as long as you continue to show up. Thank you. All right, Patrick, thank you so much. Abhishek, Good to have you here. Daphne, back again. Thank you. Okay, Patrick. Unfortunately, I failed the business partner interview round last week. One of the reflection is how to get myself slowed down during the interview, especially with unexpected questions. Okay, I'm going to go through all three of these and then I'm going to come back to them. Also, how to get in the habit of asking clarifying questions, restate questions in the process of interview prep, especially with the interviewer not very engaged, which was exactly what happened to me last week. All right, let's go piece by piece because these are all fantastic questions and really important for everybody. So the best way to slow down constantly, and I know it's like, oh, Jeff, this is so basic, our breath. So we don't have to show our interviewer that we're taking deep breaths, but we take a deep breath. I just did it. And I didn't really show that I was like doing the full motion of taking a big breath. It will calm you. Okay. And then the second way to slow down is to do this item right here. We slow down by, I'm always writing down the question. So I always have a pen, and sometimes our audience needs to have the visual, right? It's like a prop. So we say to our interviewer, Sue, I'm a really slow writer. I may ask you to restate questions throughout this interview. Would you mind just restating the question for me? Remember, kind of open hand is open, flexible. So say, could you just restate it for me? So open hand means you're open. That's why people show their hands. That's science, and the science behind it is we always showed open hands to say, hey, I'm safe. So you say, hey, kind of with an open hand. Okay, so you have the pen in your hand. You say, could you just please restate the question? That's slowing it down. We're definitely writing it down. And then we are going to restate the question. Why is this guidance nowhere else on the internet? I mean, 99% of people, and I know everybody's heard me say this before, 99% of people in a slate of maybe 3 to 4 interviews are going to answer at least one question incorrectly. And that doesn't mean they get the whole question wrong, but it's an adjacent question. They're not really answering what's asked of them. Write it down, ask it to be restated, then you restate it. Then going back to here, how do we slow down? The first thing I tell any interviewer is, I'm going to take a minute to gather my thoughts. You may take up to a full minute, you may not, but breathe. Especially, what is your interviewer going to do? In 1 minute, they're going to be checking their email, checking the sports score, checking the weather, doing something silly. They're not even going to notice a minute. And even if it's a small downtick that you take a minute, the fact that you're settled, prepared, you've taken your breath, your answer is going to be much, much better. People want to go too fast. People don't like this advice. Slow down. Some of your interviewers want to go incredibly fast. They've forgotten what it's like to be in a job interview and give you the time and space. And so again, I'll take that little downtick for a way better answer because overall you'll be viewed more favorably. Breathe, slow down, restate, write it down, take your time. That's going to be incredibly helpful. And then with unexpected interview questions, we always just want to be thinking about it from the mindset of the role, right? So like if we get a hypothetical question, we're always going to put ourselves in the job role, always. And that will just take a lot of the stress and anxiety away. For behavioral questions, if we don't have a great answer, we're just thinking, what's the broader or larger theme of the question? And that's what we're thinking about when we take our time. We may not have the perfect example, but we may have some connection to the broader theme. Is it a broader theme of strategy or process or collaboration? And then we'll try and bring that great example in. I know that's a lot of feedback. Let's see what else here. Okay. Yeah, and so non-engaged interviewers are unfortunately extremely more common than we think. And so if somebody's not engaged, we have to do our best to get them engaged and bring in those strong visuals. People really struggle to connect when there's no visuals. So the more visual connectivity we can build throughout our answers, and I'm happy to dive into more detail on that subject, the better. I know there's a lot of feedback, Patrick. Let me know if that helps. Let me know if you have follow-up questions. Hey, Liz, thanks for being here. Hey, Jeff, these are now built into my Tuesday routine and love these. Okay, amazing. And let's just take a pause moment. So much of job search and networking and interviewing and negotiation and even onboarding in these initial months have a plan. So this came up with two friends really recently, and obviously I'm extending out these answers a little bit as we warm into this session and get more questions coming in. But I had this conversation with two people, and they're like, "Oh, Jeff, I'm in job search mode, and I get home at the end of the day. I'm just trying to do my job, and I'm exhausted." I said, "Okay, let's focus in on two things. One, what's your green zone?" So we all have green, yellow, and red zones. Parts of the days where we operate at a higher level. My green zone is definitely mornings. I'm definitely a morning person, and I definitely operate at the highest level, hence the live session. Obviously, that's also for time zones. But start to think about what's your green zone, where are you going to be the most efficient and effective? And then just building that plan into your daily schedule if you're in job search mode, any facet of job search mode. And so maybe your green zone is up till noon. Take 11:30 to noon, block that off, make your lunch the night before, and use that as your interview prep time. But just, I love building this into a routine or plan. Routine and planning is very, very powerful. Usually the people who have really strong plans or very disciplined, stick to their routine, tend to have more success. And so that was really long-winded, but thanks for being here. I love that it's a part of your routine. And we definitely have people coming back every week, and that's what kind of keeps these live sessions going, is people like you. So thank you. Okay, Liz, exciting times. Just go cursor. Okay. Amazing IDE with AI built in and has 20 times my productivity. Built a robust app in 3 days. Also have interviews coming up, and I'm prepping instantly. Let's go. Nice, Liz. Well, I'm very excited. Just go cursor. Okay, so I'll have to check that out. Obviously, so much of what I want everybody to be thinking about, and the reason why I'm talking about it is because I'm thinking about it for myself, is how do we get more time back by using the tools that are available to us today? So continuing to think about tools and how we can speed up and leverage our time is going to be incredibly impactful. But Liz, I wish you the best of luck in those interviews. Definitely get after it. Hey, Jeff, happy Tuesday. Is it okay to write down my interviewers' questions? I always want to do it, but I feel like it would give an unprofessional impression. I think the exact opposite, right? I think anybody who's not writing down the questions is somebody, to me, again, personally, this is just, everybody knows I'm pretty rigid. I've done this a lot, right? When people don't write down the questions, like when my clients don't write down the questions. So I'm going to go on a little bit of a side tangent here. So when my clients, I'm having a client session and they're answering the question, they go through their answer. One of the first questions that I'll often ask when I know they didn't write down the question, I say, "Tell me what question I asked you." And they can't tell me the question. And so if an interviewer ever said to you, "Hey, why are you writing down the questions?" Well, I'm trying to capture them to memory. If they say you can't write down the questions, say okay. And then instantly after the interview, I would strongly consider whether you want to work for that company. I would give that feedback to your point of contact, whether that's a hiring manager, recruiter. How can we effectively answer questions if we can't write them down? If that's seen as unprofessional, to me, that's just crazy. That's not how our brains work. Our brains aren't meant to connect and capture 1 to 2 full sentences just like that. So it's not unprofessional. And if anybody calls you out on it, wow, I really would strongly consider giving feedback on why that's such a poor experience for a job interview candidate. So I recommend trying it, seeing if you get any pushback, but try not to go in with the assumption that it's going to be viewed negatively. And I wouldn't ask permission. That's not something that I feel like you should be asking permission for. You should always be able to write down the question and be able to review it. Question: when do you know how to proceed with the CFAS method for a question? I found myself using this framework in nearly all my questions, but at one point the interviewer said, just give me high level answer. Okay. So we definitely use CFAS for non-example based answers. How would you do X? What would you do in Y scenario? I want you to imagine. Those types of questions always use CFAS. And obviously, if it's tell me about a time when, give me an example of, I want you to use the STAR method. Some people like CAR or PAR. It's all just setting the context, talking through our actions, and giving those powerful results. Some interviewers aren't going to love the depth of the CFAS method. And one of the things we're trying to do is we're trying to bring them into the conversation. So we're trying to say, Sue, what I love to do with these questions is go through the exploration of making sure I've identified the critical information, really building that outline for you, getting in the mind of the role and making some assumptions, and then really diving deep into the solution. If you want shorter 30-second to 1 minute answers, I'm happy to do that for you. And then what you do is you use those pre-planned frameworks to build a strong outline to show them how you can give them a high level answer. So you're thinking A through Z in terms of the concepts. Then you can say, it'd be really fun to dive a little bit more into risk assessments or building relationships with those stakeholders, but that's my high level plan. So we got to get that feedback first. I really want you to go in depth, because if we default to high level, we're forgettable. And if we default to depth, we're memorable. Memorable makes us more likable. Likable makes us more hireable. I hope that helps. But obviously, my advice is absolutely terrible if we're not adapting and adjusting to the interviewer. We have to do that 100% of the time. We got to follow their agenda, their path, and then we try to navigate as much as we can to bring it back to taking control. Yes, Liz, always love having you here. Thanks for answering all the questions. Can you please provide more clarification on how to make it more visual to unengaged interviewers? Okay. 100%, Patrick. So we're really trying to do two things. Let's split it apart. Let's split it to behavioral questions and hypothetical questions. So on the behavioral side, so many interviewers will be unengaged because they're not connected to the story. So many people say, well, this is an example from my previous company. And the challenge was, we had this like major challenge with this annoying third party stakeholder, and this vendor was terrible, and I just needed to get them on track. It's like, this is an example from my time as a program manager at Google, where we had a third party vendor that was constantly missing deadlines by 6 to 8 weeks. And we really liked them and their product. And specifically, their product was servers for data centers, and we just needed to get aligned. Let me tell you about the actions I took. So now they're thinking about the vendor, they're thinking about data centers, they're thinking about servers, and they're more connected. So often we lose our interviewer because the situation and task, we haven't created specific visuals and we haven't been brief. We'll go into a long tirade about all the challenges. I want you to be specific and brief in your situation and task. So that will create great visuals here. Think about it like the beginning of a good book or a good movie, right? Like, let's go to the movie analogy. Like, when they create a really clear storyline right up front, we're more engaged. If the story's confusing, there's missing details, usually that means the movie's just not going to be as powerful, right? So create that nice visual so they can follow along with the rest of the story. Now, for hypothetical questions, it's weak to no assumptions. Your assumptions need to be strong. So if I'm trying to get a job in Google Ads, I'm not going to talk about working with an e-commerce company or a retailer. I'm going to talk about a flip-flop company that specifically operates on the West Coast of the US, and they have brick and mortar and online stores. Why? It's flip-flops. It's a good visual. I know West Coast, it's going to be warmer. Flip-flops make sense. And then you can, in your answer, start solving for the challenges that a flip-flop company would have, as opposed to some general retailer or e-commerce or healthcare or financial company, but I don't have a clear visual. Assumptions are incredibly powerful. And in the beginning, your interviewer, it may feel like, oh, your interviewer may give you a cringy face because they're not sure they love your assumptions. But then as you follow along and as they follow, well, as you build out your solution and as they follow along, they're going to be able to picture the challenges for that specific type of client. I hope that helps. Let me know if you have more questions, but visuals in the situation and task and visuals in the assumptions are the two primary and key areas where you can get your interviewer to get a little bit more engaged. Thanks to you, I am a Googler. Well, amazing. We always love these messages. I think everybody loves to see what's possible. And I'll always throw it back to the community to say, of course, I'm happy to provide content. I think it's great, but I always think it's on the candidate, the person. You put in the hard work. There's plenty of resources on everything. I'm not the only person who provides Google resources, of course, but it's about your effort. And I just want you to congratulate yourself because you put in a lot of hard work to get there. So congrats. I hope it's a great opportunity, and I wish you the best of luck. And thank you so much for letting me know. It's so nice. We never get sick of seeing these, and sometimes I need to reflect back and have the gratitude to see at least one of these a session. During COVID, we saw a lot of them. I think we got 12 maybe or 13 in one session, which was crazy. Things have slowed down, but I appreciate it. Thank you so much, and good luck. Yes, green zones. I don't know the name of the book. It's probably called Your Zones or The Green Zone or something. Just look it up. It's super, super interesting. Like for a lot of us, I think for a lot of us, our green zone is the morning. It's where like our brain is still functioning at a high level and we haven't been exhausted by the day. And so you're supposed to work on the hardest stuff in the morning. And sometimes that can be even tough, but just prioritize working on the hard things in your zone of genius and your time of genius. And your time of genius is going to be dependent on you, but understanding where you perform the best, work on the hardest tasks at that time of day. Jeff, amazing videos. Awesome. For an account strategist role at Google in the interview process, would it be okay to ask the interviewer if I can use a pen and paper for the RRK and GCA interviews? And again, I wouldn't ask. I just don't believe that we need to ask. I think you go in with that prep, and if they're like, what are you doing? You're just saying, oh, I'm just writing down the question, and then I'm working through some notes in my head. If they say you can't do that, you have to use the Google sheet that we provided. I would just say, oh, I'm sorry. I know some people at Google, they recommended that I just hand wrote and kind of thought through it. They said the Google Doc might slow me down a little bit. And so, again, I wouldn't expect a Google interviewer. We can expect anything from any interviewer, but I wouldn't expect a Google interviewer to be upset about a pen and paper. I haven't really heard that at all. Got cursor. Okay, so let's go back to that, Liz. Just want to make sure for the audience. Just got cursor. Okay, well, so we'll have to check out cursor. Oh, and there you put this. Got cursor, code editor with AI, GPT or Claude built in. It's like pair programming, instantly accepts changes, saves hours and days. Okay, really cool. I'll have to check that out, even though I think anybody would call me a coder. Thanks, Jeff. I've recently found your channel. It's really helpful. Awesome. I appreciate everybody coming in and showing up, and I think I'm going to continue to do this for a while as long as people continue to show up. Has generous free trial has become indispensable. Just sharing because I'm excited and I think it can help other engineers here. Yes. So again, cursor. It's just so important. Like as this community, it's not just about me answering questions. It's about comments. It's about feedback. It's about tools, and we all want to be sharing. This is a great platform to share, just so we can all learn. And I know a lot of the views for these lives will come after they've been recorded and gone live, and so it's helpful. Thanks, Liz. Hey, Jeff, loved your content. Found you recently while searching to prepare for my Google interview for an AE. Amazing. Your recruiter said you were too verbose and your answers were too long. Okay. Okay. It looks like you have another. Well, let me skip ahead and just go to that comment to handle it. Any tips on time management during GCA interviews? If you struggle with time management, and this is challenging, but I strongly recommend it. When you practice, use a stopwatch. And of course, if you want to check out our AI tool, do that. It will obviously keep track of your time. But behavioral answers, and remember, I like longer behavioral answers. I like 3 to 4 minutes. If it's well structured with a strong situation and task that's brief and specific, if your actions really go in depth and you provide great results, 3 to 4 minutes. 30 seconds on the situation and task, 2 to 3 minutes on the actions, and 30 seconds on the results is a really good timeline for me to get a strong feeling about you. I really struggle to find out anything about candidates if it's a 1 minute answer, which is very common. And even 2 minutes feels very, very lean to me. But use a stopwatch. On the hypothetical side, it's much tougher. We don't know how much they're going to interact. But when you hit the solution stage, keep your solutions 2 minutes, then check in. Then 2 minutes, then check in. That's where a lot of people get caught up. I hope that helps. Let me know if you have more questions, though. Good morning, Jeff, and everyone in the same boat. Sending positivity and warmth to everyone who's preparing for the next round of interviews. And we need it, right? And all the feedback and guidance and advice and sharing that we do in this platform can help everybody understand that it's a challenging road. But also, when we think about all the job search and interview prep, there are few things in life that take as little time as interview prep to really change your life. And it's kind of crazy to think about the fact that just spending even 15, 20, 30 hours preparing for an interview could literally land us a job that pays us twice as much, means millions more over our career. Like it's the time commitment to interviewing and job search is really limited in the grand scheme when we think about the powerful impact. Okay. Okay. I have an important question. Okay. The call with my recruiter for a mid-market role, and I don't have ad experience, but I have sales experience. Yep. I interviewed for a mid-market, but I brought up engaged. Did that hurt me? I don't think so. I don't think that would have hurt you, but tell me a little bit. I'm gonna kick this back to you. Okay, Grant. Looks like you have more questions. I'm gonna roll through your questions, and then anybody I skipped over, I'll come right back. I asked if they hire mid-market without ad experience. She said yes. Left off her saying she would pass my information to HM and decide on next steps. Does that sound bad? Would she have told me if I passed? Okay. I let her know I've gotten certified in Google Ads solutions. I followed up linking up. Okay. It's hard. It's always hard for me to know exactly what's going on behind the scenes, unfortunately. I love that you got a Google Ads certificate though, because so often you will find that people go into these roles. And again, let's go back here. That people will go into these roles and they don't actually have specific ads experience, but they have sales experience. And then the recruiter will say, you don't need to know ads, but it really helps, especially on the hypothetical side, to build connectivity with your audience. So I love that you did that. If you have more insight, please let us know. I know I skipped over a couple questions. I'm just going to spend 30 seconds at the 30s prompting on my services. If you're here today, you can use the code NERVES to get 25% off of our AI interview tool and 25% off of our interview course. So many bells and whistles coming to the AI app, from body language to an interview academy. I am doubling down on the spend and everything we're doing on there. We know we're going to be best in market. We already feel that way, of course, but it takes some time. Interview course, I spent 4 weekends in October updating all the modules to include AI. So big, heavy lift there. Still doing one-on-one interview coaching, one-on-one negotiation coaching, and one-on-one strategy sessions. That's a resume and LinkedIn review. I go live 9 a.m. Pacific time every Tuesday, new original long form content every Monday. And I continue to say, and I will do more shorts, I promise, coming up soon. If you like what I'm doing today, smash that like button. And if you've never subscribed, please consider subscribing. All right, let's get back to it. So we skipped a couple here. Do you have any pre-interview rituals that can help with interviewer nerves? So far, what has worked for me is doing a quick jog right before the interview. Wow. Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about it, right? Because remember, I always come in with the focus area of these sessions to talk about what happens like when we get slow. And so let's dive into it a little bit. There is a connectivity between our physical and our mental. I would be a little concerned that a jog would fatigue our bodies, so potentially have a carryover effect to our brain, but I don't want to discount anything that anybody's doing. Here's what I do love. 30 minutes before any job interview, you have to shut down. There's just way too much science on this. Our brain does best in short stints, short sprints. Typically like 20 minutes is ideal. Interviews should really be more like 20 to 30 minutes. But we don't want to use any brain capacity right before the job interview. So prepping right up till the interview, you've actually used up brain capacity. And so even if you're feeling not 100% prepared, I like sitting and listening, putting my earbuds in, listening to meditation music, and just clearing my mind. If you are fortunate enough to have a yard or even have a park across the street or something like that, just going and sitting there and just nothing. Again, not even any like lyrical music. I would just say instrumental music, just really calm things down. Secondly, I like the night before a really good, and I know that some of this stuff is so basic, but I like everything to be totally set up. So even if the interview's in the afternoon, I want to have my setup for how I'm going to take the interview. I want to make sure I got the lighting right, my Wi-Fi right. I've kicked everybody out of the house. The dog's going for a walk with a neighbor, whatever it might be. I want to get all that stuff set up the night before, and then anything I need to do day of, I want to make sure that's as limited as possible. I just don't want to have to put any additional mental stress. I strongly encourage, like, if you have to go to the bathroom, hold it till like 5 minutes before your interview, just so you don't have to go to the bathroom during your interview. That can just totally ruin an interview. And then that also speaks to, like, what did you eat the night before? Eat long. Sorry, my mic looked like it was connected. Let me know if people can hear me. But if you're very sensitive to caffeine, consider not having too much caffeine or eliminating caffeine. There's just so many little steps, but the biggest one is so many people prep right up until the last second, and it's brain capacity. And again, I'm all science, right? Like, as I've gotten into this journey, everything I look at and attribute to science, because that's the reality. There are ways our brains work, and it's science, and I'm not trying to defeat science. I'm trying to use science to our benefit to know what's going to be best and how we perform best. That was long-winded. Let me know if you have a follow-up questions. Good morning, Jeff, and everybody in the same boat with me. Sending out positivity to everybody who's preparing for the next round of interviews. Jeff, what's your opinion on the 2025 job market? Big question, right? So I think we're going to continue to see a tighter job market. And the reason why it's tighter is because it's just the pure ease of getting job applications in, the way that we connect with people. It's just never been easier to throw a lot of stuff out there. So it kind of floods the market. I think people are still competing against some pretty strong people who got laid off from these elite companies. So that's another item to consider. I just think it's going to get tougher. And I think what I've continued to talk about, and I think that I'll continue to see pushback on this item, but I'll share my opinion because you asked for it. I think that the pace of automation is beyond what anybody's expecting. And I think we've seen it in January, right? And I don't want to get into all the things that are going on in the AI world because that will just be a tangent. But jobs are going to disappear really fast. And I don't think that anybody's quite ready for the pace that jobs are going to disappear. Companies are going to look at their bottom line. That's what they're in business to do. They're in business to make money. And when they can automate out a job, they will. And I've put many LinkedIn polls out there. People don't believe that their job's at risk. I think every single job is at risk. If we think about the way that automation and the pace of the way things are happening, there's no reason to believe that many jobs won't disappear this year. And again, it's not gloom and doom. It's just a reality, right? And so just help yourself by learning how to leverage the tools and then reflect on, could I be replaced? I started building an AI tool almost 18 months ago because I recognized that people may choose automation over me, right? And I'm okay with that, right? But I just leaned into it. Instead of being afraid of it, I leaned into it and said, how can I leverage this to help me have more success? Something to think about. Happy Tuesday to you. Thanks for being here. Oh, a couple of tips on time management. Yeah. Stop watching yourself and planning. If you can use a stopwatch during the interview, it's really helpful. The biggest trick, again, is that in the solutions, people just go on and on and on. If you find that in a hypothetical question, you solve for everything, you're done. You've solved for nothing, because if we go 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes in a hypothetical solution, they tuned out 2 minutes in. That's why I like solutions to stay 2 minutes. So we focus in on a couple of framework concepts, and then we say, hey, Sue, I think moving on to resourcing and risk management, I think that's a great next step for us. But of course, I'm happy to dive a little bit more into the data and our goals and objectives. What do you prefer? So now you're creating this back and forth with Sue. Allow Sue to stop you and move on to the next question. Allow Sue to ask her follow-up questions, but just going on and on and on. We're trying to solve for everything. It means our answer is probably going to still be too generic, and that we're just talking to talk. And so always cut yourself off. But stopwatches are great. Thanks a lot. That makes a lot of sense to me. Also, any recommendations to overcome anxiety during job search with ghosted recruiter and failed interviews? I know you mentioned about breathing, maybe some books, or whether I should do meditation. Yeah, so meditation, let's talk about it. This is a really interesting subject. I mean, with books, I'm the wrong person to ask, and in the sense that I consume so many books. I'm very fortunate that my office is a bike ride away, and I have a beach cruiser, and I'm on that cruiser, and I'm always learning when I'm on my cruiser. So I can sometimes get through at least one book a week. So I just consume so much that I get afraid because I like all the books kind of jumble together. I'm just looking for a couple insights, big insights from each book. But meditation, the biggest thing to remember about meditation is it's a practice. And so our mind will constantly try to jump in and bring items in, and we just can't stop that. It's to not get frustrated. Here's another crazy, crazy item about meditation. There are some people who cannot create pictures in their minds. Okay. So I believe it's about 20% of the population that contextually understands things, but cannot create visuals in their mind, making guided meditation really hard. How do I know that? I'm actually one of those people. I know it sounds really weird. It took a long time to come to reality in terms with that. I know, like if you say picture an apple, of course I know what an apple looks like, but no picture is created in my mind. I know it's red, I know the shape, I know the size, but I'm not getting a picture in my mind, which for me, I never understood why guided meditation was so hard, but that was the reason why. So how do I meditate now? I meditate while doing yoga. So I just count out my poses, I put on meditation music, and in those moments, will I start to think through something? Yeah, but then I'll just try to go back to my counting to clear my mind. So that's how I do it. I do meditation through yoga. Not everybody would recommend that, but the style and way I do it, I'm able to get to that place. But books, I would just do your research on that. I don't have any great suggestions on calming your nerves or breathing books wise. Is it normal to start the process for an AS? Oh, is it normal to start over the process for an AS because it's a different team? No, it's not common. Maybe there's like a one interview redo, which like maybe the hiring manager loves to do an RRK interview, and sometimes they can have control over that, but you shouldn't have to redo everything. It would also depend on timing. If it had been like a year, then or 6 months to a year, then maybe, but if it's right away, then no, that would be uncommon, and you would want to follow up with your recruiter to find out why. Used to listen to your videos a lot during the interview process, and now I've been at Google for the last 2.5 years. Thank you. Hey, Alexander, thanks for being here. You probably saw me pop up in a live on LinkedIn, and I love hearing from people. It's always amazing. You just hope that you have impact, and I mean, I've hoped that I've been clear enough in these live sessions. I mean, I think I'm 1 week away from 7 years removed from Google. So I think some of the Google coaching is helpful, but I think my more generic coaching just leans really well into how to be successful in Google interviews. But thanks for showing up and saying hi. Okay. Thanks for that, Jeff. Just a quick follow-up. Is it okay to check mid-solution without completing it? P.S. I went 10 plus minutes in hypothetical answers. Yes, 100%. You're always checking in. You're always checking in, not to see if your solution is great. You're checking in to see if to confirm with them that moving to the next step is that you're connected, that they're ready to move on, but you're always doing it with a lens or a push, right? So if it's like, hey, should I keep going? They're going to stop you, or they're just going to smile and nod. Hey, I think we've really covered how we would address timeline and budget. I really would love to move on to that stakeholder alignment, collaboration, vision. Is that a good next step for us? So you're planting an idea in their mind of what you want to talk through. Because if we say anything else, they might throw us a major, major curveball. 2-minute solutions. You have to cut yourself off. And that only comes with practice. I just have seen it time and time again. I'll even sit with clients and I'll say, okay, I want you to really focus in on 2-minute solutions. And then they'll just go on tangents. It's just, we have to recognize that our audience has a limited attention span. Why can we go longer on behavioral questions? Why can we go 3 to 4 minutes? Well, culturally across the world, as children, we all listen to stories. So you're telling a story in your behavioral example. Of course, I want it to be very structured, but you're telling a story. So it's easier for them to follow along. When you're hypothetically problem solving, there's more ambiguity. It makes it tougher. Now, how do we reduce some of that ambiguity? Strong assumptions. I hope that helps. So any specific suggestions for a mid-market account executive, tips from someone coming from a 6-year sales background with no ad experience? Is the Google Ad certificate something I should pursue? You don't have to pursue the Google Ad certificate. It's valuable. And here's why. In a hypothetical answer, if you just say, oh, we'll run some ads and we'll check some performance and see how it goes. If you're able to say, strategically looking at Google shopping ads for this flip-flop company that has brick and mortar and online, mostly on the West Coast, obviously online's available everywhere. So just poking at one type of Google ads, why does that matter? Your audience is dealing with Google ads every day. So if we're not referencing it and talking about it, we don't have to go super in depth. But all these recruiters are like, you don't need to know Google ads. And then when people don't get the job because there's no connectivity to the Google ads space where your interviewer lives, it's bad advice, in my opinion. Jeff, thanks for answering my previous question. Yep, that's what I'm here to do. Yeah, I'm worried about bringing up engaged/SMB role made me seem not confident. Yeah, I can't. I don't know. I can't answer that. Recruiters should. Well, yes, recruiters should be telling you if you have a follow-up call whether you've passed or not. I hope that helps. Let me know if you have more questions. What is the best message to write a LinkedIn Google recruiter or HR asking for a chance to get an interview? P.S. I'm already in a Google interview process. Just wanted to up my chances. So I'm going to say absolutely not. You're not upping your chances. I just don't think when we're in the process for a role, it's just confusing to reach out to new stakeholders when we're in the process. Take that process all the way through. That's my recommendation. Not everybody loves that guidance. And you will absolutely get 0% traction messaging Google recruiters on LinkedIn. 0%. I love, there's so many things I would do if I could go back, right? But many of you have seen like the Loom videos. I shoot Looms all the time where it's like my little head in a circle and I'm reviewing information online. It's a screen share of my head, basically. If I were to show you or do a Loom of what my LinkedIn looked like when I was a recruiter for Google, crushed. Just get me a job, give me a job, I need a job, I want a job, give me a job, job. Can you get me a job at Facebook? Can you get me a job at Amazon? I mean, it was just crushed. And so recruiters just shut down. They won't respond. Hiring managers are a better step, but I don't like asking. I like giving. Hey, Sue, I came across this cool article. It's the intersection of ads and AI. I thought you'd find it really interesting. Check it out. Have a great day. It's a gimme platform, and it's a taking platform. And so if you give on LinkedIn, you tend to do better, in my opinion. Is it something common to have a screening call on Zoom with 2 people for Google AE roles? Also on mail, she said she would casually talk about the role, but it turned into an interview with 9 questions. Okay, let's go to the second part of this. One of the interviewer didn't turn on camera and didn't ask at all. Also, questions were hypothetical and behavioral. I was ready to discuss the role in my background. Yeah, and so what I always recommend to people is be ready for anything. I know it's like, oh, great, Jeff, that advice is terrible. But It's good in the sense that I never go into a conversation with any expectations. If multiple people show up, great. They turn their camera on, they don't turn their camera on. I don't expect that as well. I don't know if I'm going to have a casual conversation or get flooded with questions. Just be ready for anything. If we anticipate anything, we'll always do better. One person not turning on their camera, I would instantly, absolutely 100% of the time give feedback to the recruiter to say, hey, one of the two interviewers didn't turn on their camera. You don't need to say anything else. If it was just one person, and this is my strong guidance, I want everybody to consider this. If you get into a job interview that is a video interview and your interviewer does not have their camera on, step one, hey, Sue, would you be willing to turn on your camera today? If that's a no, okay. Step two is, okay, Sue, if you have your camera off, is it okay if I turn my camera off? If that's a no, then step three is, Sue, unfortunately, I need to cancel the interview today. I'm expected to take a video interview with you having your camera off and me having my camera on. That's not a candidate experience that I'm interested in having. Thank you so much. I hope you have a fantastic day. Click, reach out to your point of contact, hiring manager, recruiter, and say, they refuse to turn their camera on and force me to have my camera on. That's not a video interview. It's unacceptable. If you show up to a video interview, the expectation is you're talking to a person. Talking to a blank screen and definitely having to keep your camera on, it's not fair. And I wouldn't do it. And these interviewers who keep their cameras off, and by the way, this has been a theme since COVID, they should get so crushed by their organization, because the HR and recruiting team and all these people and the hiring manager and the recruiter and all these stakeholders are putting all their time and effort into the interviews. And this person simply didn't want to show up on that day. And we need to hold them accountable. And I know that's a tangent, but it's just such unacceptable behavior. And these corporations just are continuing to allow it. It blows my mind. I was told next interview after recruiter is with two AEs. That's for an account strategist role. Okay. Let me see, Grant. Let's see if you have anything else. Jeff, also the recruiter never responded to any emails prior to our meeting. I sent a follow-up. Is it normal for them to respond? It's a third-party service. Okay, so let's be really clear about this. This is really a state of confusion, I think. Yes, it's common for them to not respond. It's 100% totally unacceptable. Okay, just so you're aware, like, it's so easy to respond. It is so easy. I mean, let's just take a pause moment. If anybody who's watching this video right now, and you're watching here live, or you're watching on you're watching later on, one word responses are so powerful and impactful. Acknowledged, or maybe we'll go past one word. Acknowledged, got it, we'll follow up soon, on it, tracking, any of those, it's so much better than nothing. Like, even if you can't get to it, you're so busy, you see it, on it, acknowledged, saw it. It's huge. It at least gives the person on the other end the warm and fuzzy that you're at least paying attention to them. So now it's a third-party service. It sounds like it's a full-time role. There are no third parties for full-time roles. So what do I mean by that? If it's Jane Smith, recruiter through Randstad, Jane Smith is sitting on the Google campus when, obviously in a hybrid environment, sitting on the Google campus. Jane has access to all the systems, has all those tools. They're not external to the organization. It's just that Google hires a lot of contractors. I know, because I started as one, but they have the same access, and they basically are a full-time Google employee. They just don't have the same benefits. Hey, Brent. Okay. Had a final interview last Friday and waiting to hear back, and another with a hiring manager yesterday. Are there consistent tells to know if the interview went well? I've had a few interviews, thought they went awesome, only to not move to the next round. Just seeing here. So some people can be really hard to read. right? This is a human behavior that some people like are very transparent. You can see it on my face. There's nothing hiding in my body language, right? I'm going to show it all. But some people are very good at kind of keeping calm and staying calm. There are indicators, right? Lots of smiling, lots of head nodding, great engagement and follow-up questions, interviews running long. But sometimes people are just hard to read, right? And so those are some of the things I would look for, but sometimes it can be hard to tell. What skills do you suggest one should look for gaining to be more secure in this automation environment? How to leverage these tools, right? So like, how much time are you spending on a daily basis with your preferred LLM? How are you learning to maybe just build a simplistic AI agent? Just little steps and just kind of being in the know. And being in the know can be just follow, maybe this week, I would recommend everybody follow like 3 people who are AI gurus, and just kind of check out some of their content, Instagram, TikTok, shorts, whatever you like, and just go in there and ingest a little bit and say, oh, if I just applied this one thing. So I work, I have a friend and he's kind of done some coaching for me. And we agreed yesterday that we're going to try to implement one AI automation strategy per week to make us a little bit more efficient with our time. And I don't think it's like a big lean. Now, maybe it could be, but really important to just lean in a little bit and see if you can learn. And sorry, everybody, I'm fumbling over my words today. I tend to be a TikToker, so I get a lot of my good content from TikTok. Sorry, my brain's fluffy today. Hey, thanks for being here. They said I have to start over. Okay, so this was for, I believe, for an account strategist role. You did the interviews and now they're asking you to start over for another team, right? They said, I have to start over because they transferred me to another recruiter and she said the first round interviews I did will have very minimal impact in this new process. Okay. My first round interviews for the other position was November 2nd, so months. Of course, I would go through it again. It's just a little frustrating. Yeah, and I mean, even just like, again, I'm external to the organization, but like some of the data that's coming in, even in today's session, like an account strategist having an interview with 2 AEs at the same time, like that wasn't a part of their previous process. So maybe they're changing a little bit of how they're doing the interview process for account strategists this year. It's a very, very common, popular, high turnover role. It's an entry level role, right? And so maybe they've looked at their process and decided to tweak it a little bit. If a recruiter tells you on a call you will have a next call, that means her saying your past info to the HM is a bad sign. Okay, so again, I want to be really clear. Third-party recruiter service. It's a contractor who's working basically in the same capacity as a full-time Google recruiter. But I really want to be careful. I do not make assumptions about what people are going to do or what's going on, just because I'm such a data-driven person. Without that data, I simply cannot tell you what's going on. I just don't know, unfortunately. I'd love to help, but it seems like it's been a little confusing, and I just always take a step back and say with my recruiter, hey, I've been a little bit confused. I want to understand a little bit more from you in this process. I hope that helps. Also, Jeff, how long does hiring committee take to come back with a hire or no hire answer? Well, this is one of the trickiest things that I've seen happening since I left. You should know the day and time you're going to hiring committee. So I would always say to my candidate, hey, you're going to hiring committee at 10 a.m. Pacific time on Thursday. You will hear from me no later than 11 a.m. that day. I'm going to call you with the result. And it was that simple. So hire, no hire, or hold, which means they want to do an additional interview, they need more information, etc. You should know the day and time of hiring committee, and you should get that feedback right away. Why wouldn't I give you that feedback right away? If you're a candidate that's going to hiring committee, you should be a top priority for me as a recruiter. My recruiter notified me that the account strategist role I applied for has come down in priority to fill other roles. Notified me 2 weeks ago. Is it appropriate to follow up 4 weeks from this email? 4 weeks is great. Yeah. Hey, it's been a month. Just wanted to check in. I know things are probably moving slowly as we warm into the year. Hope you're doing great. 4 weeks, I think, is a great timeline. Also, as someone looking for an interview in an open role, what do you suggest approach to HR should be if the hiring manager is not known for the role? I don't think we need to know who the hiring manager is. I mean, obviously we want to know, right? It'd be helpful to know who the hiring manager is, but I also think that sometimes looking at people's backgrounds can overwhelm us and skew us in the wrong direction. But I guess you can ask them who the hiring manager will be, but again, sometimes that could be depending on role. That could be a team match. It might not be identified yet. So there are some unknowns there for sure. I noticed that some people put Google instead of contractor company for their experience in their CV. Is it okay to do that? They have to verify their employment. You mentioned the contractor has the same access. Can they verify with Google about their employment if they worked for contractors? Okay, so let's go back to this. On my resume, if you were to look at my resume now, and I actually have a resume only for the purpose that I play around with my resume I use a shell resume to kind of like play around with tools and stuff I'm creating. And so I spent the first 7 months at Google as a contractor. I don't split that up. I just say Google. And even if I had worked for 1 year at Google as a contractor through a company like Randstad, the reason why I keep saying Randstad is they're one of the biggest third parties that fills these recruiter roles. I would still put Google on my CV or resume. In the job application, I'd put Randstad, and then I'd put in parentheses working as a contractor at Google. But Randstad was my employer. So it's very important. CV, the company I work for was Google. But on my application, the company that paid me and is going to do and be able to confirm employment is Randstad. I hope that helps. And here's what also happens. So I recommend that people on their LinkedIn profile don't put the third party, that they put the actual company. Hey, it might get flagged. It might not. But if it gets flagged, I would just change it. They're not going to fire somebody for doing that. But I always recommend that people put the company they're working for, because when you're a contractor through a company like Randstad, you're actually working for Google. You're doing the same job as the full-time recruiters, the same expectations. You're just doing it through a contracting company. That's all. I hope that helps. It's kind of funny. I want to tell a story, but I think it's too personal. So I'll keep it on that. I won't get into specifics, but somebody I know is working as a contractor for Apple, and Apple reached out to them and said, hey, remove Apple. Like it was somebody from the legal team reached out and said, remove Apple. But it was the contracting company was actually Apple themselves. And so they just left it, and Apple never did anything about it. So just a funny story. I sent a nice follow-up email linking my certifications as well as outlining why I'm excited for the role and how I can drive value through my experience. Does that drive positive consideration? No, I don't think it really changes things. I think it's nice that you did it, Grant. I'm not against you doing that, but does it really lean in your favor? No, not really. Not in today's world. But if it was put together well, it won't hurt you. Okay, so in my case, after all interview rounds, last of which was the hiring manager, the Randstad recruiter said she was waiting to hear back. It's been a week. Do you suggest I check in? 100%. Yeah, once we hit 5 business days, always check in, always.
Your videos help me out a lot. Awesome. I start in Google next month. You answered one of my questions regarding salary negotiations in Slack too, which was very helpful. Thanks, Jeff. Absolutely, James. Congrats. Glad you negotiated. It's always good to negotiate, but obviously getting the role is amazing. And yeah, I wish you the best of luck. Thanks for being here. Hey, Jeff, I worked as a program manager and a founder of a SaaS. I'm now in Dublin. At companies like Google, would I have a chance of being hired at a 42 with no employee experience? Hired at a 42. So remember, the way Google's leveling works is they do it's like level 1 through the higher levels, right? But like a typical program manager is going to come in the door. Lowest level they'll come in is a 3, and highest level is going to be a 7. But that's going to be a senior program manager who probably is going to have direct reports. You have a chance of being hired. Again, just understand leveling at Google is they don't use numbers like that. But typically what they'll do is like a level 3 program manager would probably be like 2 to 5 years of experience. A 4 would be 5+ years typically. A 5 is going to get 5 is maybe going to be 7, 8 years. It could be a little less. And then again, going to 10+ years for a 6 and a 7 is probably going to be 15+ years. I hope that helps. Okay, everybody, we're out of questions today. I think my brain was a little foggy today, but we made it through. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go into my wrap up. If any additional comments or questions come in while I'm doing my wrap up, I'm more than happy to answer them. If you're still here, you can use the code NERVES to get 25% off of my AI packages. That's a 1 and 3 month package, or our interview course. The AI tool, it's just getting better and better. We're evolving, we're growing, and I'm spending the money developing. I'm burning the ships. I'm putting everything I have into it and just hoping it works because I know it will work. So the tool is amazing. We're different. We provide modular feedback. You will not find another tool that breaks down your answers into small bite-sized pieces and shows you where to fix your answers. But we're building in all the body language. We're building in an interview academy. We're doing a lot of the things to make our tool incredibly robust to compete with every competitor out there. The interview course, I rebuilt the course to add AI. It was a big effort and a big lift, and the feedback has been awesome. I'm still doing one-on-one interview coaching, one-on-one negotiation coaching, and one-on-one career strategy sessions. All of this can be found at practiceinterviews.com. I go live 9 a.m. Pacific time every Tuesday, new original content every Monday. I'm going to do more shorts. If you like what I did today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, consider subscribing. And I am going to go through these last questions and then bounce off. Hey guys, 17 people are watching. If you didn't hit the like button, please do so. We want this amazing content to reach more people. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. I think she meant 42 by age. Oh, yes, 42 by age. Age has less relevancy than years of experience in program management. I think I was thinking about like Microsoft levels that start in the 60s. I think that's where I got confused. Thank you for that. Sometimes my brain needs some help. You are welcome. Thanks for being here and good luck. Let us know how it goes. You're amazing, Jeff. Thanks again. Best of luck to everybody in their job search. Absolutely best of luck. Also, Jeff, can you give an overview of the tool once? Sorry if I've missed it before. So if you just go to app.practiceinterviews.com, 7-day free trial. There's no commitment to the tool. And right on that homepage, you'll see a tool overview video that will demo the tool. Obviously, as we release new bells and whistles, I need to constantly re-record that and share that, but it's a 7-day free trial. So that will be the best way. I think it's about a 4-minute demo of the product. So again, app.practiceinterviews.com. You can also get there by going to just practiceinterviews.com to get to the app. But that demo video will be helpful, and it's pretty short, 4 minutes. Then with all my content, the piece of advice I give is I am low and slow. Yes, of course, the algorithm rewards watch time. But if you ever want to speed me up, try watching me at 1.25, 1.5. I do all my learning at 2x. Anything else, it's just way too slow for me. Lastly, any suggestion for interview preparation, routines, and structure? How do we adapt for different companies? Your prep routine and structure should remain consistent. You adapt for different companies by understanding and doing your research and asking your recruiter, your point of contact, great questions, right? And so, for example, let's take Amazon versus Google. Amazon, and unless you're going to a technical role, you are going to get 100% behavioral questions. At Google, you're probably going to get 50% hypothetical, 50% behavioral. And obviously, if there's technical, you're going to get those technical questions as well. So just doing your research and speaking with the recruiter to understand a little bit more about the setup, that's the main difference I would focus in on. So for Amazon, I coach a lot of people trying to get into Amazon. We don't talk hypothetical. We just focus STAR method and great example-based answers. Thank you for being here. Okay, everybody. Great session. We definitely, again, it's the total numbers are low, lower than what they were in COVID times, but the engagement's totally amazing. I love that we keep the flow with these small groups, and I appreciate everybody being here. I will be back. Thank you. I'll be back next Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific. Thanks so much and have a great day.